Greetings and salutations, friend. Today we are talking style. And I don't mean like suave, debonair, although that can certainly factor into it. Today we're talking about style in terms of your brand, your appeal, the things that help other people see who you are. Like, it's the subtle symbolism that you use to talk about what you do and who you are. So, greetings and salutations. I am Jeremy Tank. I am a brand coach and consultant, a master designer, and rapid transformation therapy hypnotherapist, and an expert in behavioral branding. And today, like I said, we're going to talk about style. And hi, Teresa. Good to see you. Style is one of those funny things because we tend to look at fashion as something that qualifies as style, or certain people, certain types of clothing, certain types of jewelry, certain types of everything, really. When you think about it, style is your perspective about what is cool or hip. Hip. Does anybody say hip other than me? Something that's just cool. Like, you look at somebody else and you think, and don't forget, all around awesome guy too. You're sweet. Style is like, it's just a sense of, it's a sense of what is cool in somebody else. And that's the thing about style, is that sort of like your identity or how you see yourself. Style is external. Style is how you classify other than you in different degrees. And when we're talking about fashion, when we're talking about looks, when we're talking about intelligence, appeal, sex appeal, right? A lot of that has to do with how you specifically were brought up, the influences that you happened across, the way that you were taught certain phrases, certain words, because there are colloquialisms in the Southeast that are the same colloquialisms in the Northwest, I've learned, but they mean different things, and the way that people interpret those sayings, those colloquialisms, differ, because the background, the cultural divide is so great. And that's important to keep in mind based on what you're doing with your business, how you are growing it, where you're advertising, where you're marketing, who you're talking to, right? It matters what you say and how they are going to interpret it. And that all has to come back to your style somehow. So really, what I'm talking about, though, is not really the fashion sense. It's not really glasses and the Oscar night. It's not the Emmys. What I really want to talk about is the way that you interpret your style for your brand or your persona, your face to the world. And the thing is that when you are sharing whoever you are with the world, or with your coworkers, or with your bosses, or any of that stuff, it's not 100% you. And that's okay. That's the first thing that we need to share, is that's okay. It's not 100% you. You are certainly taking on a sort of character of yourself in order to make the connection with whomever you're talking with. You know, when I'm talking to you guys, it's not the same as when I'm talking to my wife, because when I'm talking to you guys, I'm actually being, like, I crank it up to 11. On a 1 to 10 scale, I crank it to 11. I crank it to 12. I crank it to 13. I go really crazy and over the top and really make the point across. If I dial it back down a little bit, I'm more calm and centered, and it really depends on who you're speaking to what they need to hear in order to get the things that you're trying to share with them. So the first part about that is really the style of your speech. How would you describe your character, your persona that you take on to deal with the world? And this is, if you're listening to me now and you're thinking, well, okay, well, I run my own business, then think of it for yourself and for the business, because you are the business. So the words that you use to describe your voice, your persona, that character that is the business, that you are in the business, it's all tied together. If you own a business and you've got like a few employees and you're on this road to growth and you're really taking that next step and upscaling your business, you want to step back from the business a little bit and focus on your products, focus on the business itself, and really what type of words your customers need to hear from the business to help them trust you, to help them feel comfortable with the things that you offer, the things that you do, to help them really build a relationship. Because when you aren't interfacing, when the business isn't you, when it's moved beyond you, then every person in your business needs to really understand what the voice of the business is, what the persona of the business is, so that when they talk with customers or talk with each other and start to deal with tensions and their own issues, right? Because conflict, that's business. You're, as a boss, as a leader, you're constantly resolving conflicts. That's the pleasure of being the boss. So it's important that people within the business understand, here's how you need to talk with people. Here's how we share what we do. And when you are the business, really, these are the attributes that you need to take on and sort of step into the character when you go and interface with people. So what does this look like? Well, this can look like gentle, reassuring, positive, uplifting. Got any ideas of your own? Like, what kind of words do you think describe who you are in a really powerful way so that you can show that? And that's the key to this. How can you show that through the words that you choose and the way that you intonate your voice and create gestures, right? All these things I love doing with my hands, because that's what I love doing with my hands. All of that is part of the semiotics, the study of the symbols and the language that we speak. About 10 to 15% of our communication is through the actual words. The rest of that is body language, intonation, facial expressions. And that becomes part of your style. It becomes part of what people recognize and get to know about you. And here's the thing, the internet, I would say that if you're like, okay, here's my scale of energy from 0 energy to like 100 energy. The internet, just trying to interface with people, talk with them through this thing, it sucks energy. And I don't know why that is, but it's totally true. You can be yourself, 100% honest, authentic you, and you go from 100 down to about 70. So that means that when people see you online, energy-wise, unless you kick it up a notch, unless you add more energy, and it doesn't matter if you're trying to sell ShamWows or just coaching or car dealership stuff or anything. If you start talking about it online, if you start talking about your soap products on the online, your shampoo, your makeup, anything online, you have to kick up the energy, because something about the electrons here and the quantum field sucks it in and just binds it down. You have to amplify your energy. So if one of your attributes that you think about yourself when you are talking to others is energetic, you really gotta bring it. You gotta turn that dial way up so that it really comes across and people see that the natural you actually has energy, because it's so easy just to sit in front of these screens and dial it down. And the thing is that so many videos that people have out there, and this is an important marketing tip for you, so many of the videos out there have really low energy, have really mediocre energy. And when you compare one after the other, you see that there's this sort of malaise running through most of these kind of videos that share things. People rely on microphones to sound snazzy. They rely on visual graphics or Snapchats or their TikToks or the little words that go across that make things really special and intriguing. What that's doing is helping them stand out from the rest of the mundane. And while that's awesome for them, it's not fixing the mundane nature of what they're saying or how they're saying it. So one of the things you can do to really elevate your brand, to get yourself out there more, is just add some energy to your style. Whatever that style is, pump it up with energy, pump it up to the max, really hit intonation, okay? Intonation is the pitch of the voice as you speak, okay? The more that you change that up, the more that you change that up, the the greater you stand out from other people that people may watch. Right? It's people don't normally speak like that unless they're in a game show, unless they're like on television, unless they're a crazy brand guy, right? Because that's not really normal. But it plays really well on here because we've seen it on television. We've seen it in movies. We've seen wild characters who get all the attention, who draw people in, who are charismatic. Ooh, good one to add to your list of style words. Charismatic. I like that one. See, the training that we've had, and I'm very specifically calling it training, watching movies, watching television, watching game shows, watching each other on YouTube, watching all of these shows creates an expectation in the audience. And the audience right now is you, but if you get on and start doing videos, which I recommend, because why not, right? If you can sell something, if you can do something, if you can help somebody in some way, then do some videos because it's cheap. It doesn't cost anything. And if people buy something from you because of it, then all the better, right? That's good marketing. You don't even have to push the selling. But people have an expectation because of all the media that we have grown up with. If this was still a radio-driven media atmosphere, we would be really training people to watch their intonation, the pitch, the modulation of their voice, as well as the speed of the words coming out of their mouth, and the pronunciation, the dictation, the clear and crisp way that you can speak to make sure that people understand the words that you say. And a lot of that, like honestly, if you were just getting started with getting out there and learning how to speak your mind, learning how to really understand what's coming through before it comes out of your mouth, because that's a huge part of the equation, which takes training. You have to train yourself to essentially hear the words before you speak them so that you can give emphasis, so that you can give pauses, right? It takes a little thought beforehand to train the mouth that way. Part of my story is that I had some pretty severe stuttering when I was much, much younger, and it took speech therapy to train me into that way of speaking. And it's interesting because you still hear when my tongue gets tied, and in plenty of my videos, it's so goofy, and that's okay with me because I've gotten used to it, but my tongue gets tied, I start speaking really quickly because I get excited, and then I can't move my lips fast enough for my thoughts to come out. And it's something you have to work yourself into. And really, a lot of this stuff, that's what I was trying to say, a lot of this stuff, if you go to a Toastmasters meeting, or if you join Toastmasters, and you learn how to organize your thoughts, stand in front of others, and how to speak well and distinctly so that others understand you, it's a huge benefit to every part of your career, because that creates easier communication. And remember what I say, building your brand is really the relationship of you with everybody else. Everybody else. And all relationships desperately rely on is communication. The easier, the more clearly that you can communicate through your style, through the way, the words, the meaning, the phrases, the intonations, the pitches, the gestures, the facial expressions that are right for you. The more easily you can communicate through those tools, then the more likely that you're going to connect with someone on the other side who resonates with what you're saying, aligns with, their needs and your services, and they'll buy on to what you do. So that's the first part of this, is really the dynamics of the persona, the character, the voice, the style of who you are as you speak and you share. I call that the words, right? The two things that really matter to the mind are the words that you give it and the pictures that you give it. So that's all about the words. How the words come across, how they're heard, how they're seen, how they're felt. Words can be pointed. Words can be soft. Words can be gentle. Words can be hard. Words are very, very effective. The other part is the pictures. And as a master designer, I understand the pictures. That's actually something that, so I'm going to share something with you, because this is the whole concept that was new to the people when I shared it with them at the time, and that was over 20 years ago. See, I went to a couple different fine art high schools. I graduated from high school from New School for the Arts, valedictorian, and New School for the Arts was a small charter school dedicated to visual and performing arts, which meant we spent a lot of hours in the day learning about art, learning about, me personally, I wasn't a dancer, I wasn't a minstrel, I wasn't a singer, I wasn't any of those things. I was a visual artist, and I spent a lot of hours in my day learning about different artists throughout history, learning about their styles, learning how to examine their work and replicate it, learning how to, just learning the basics, the foundations of what makes painting, sculpture, art communicate, what makes it emotional, what makes it powerful, right? Learning the difference between a Matisse and a Picasso, the difference between a Basquiat and a Pollock, Jackson Pollock. And all of that kind of gave me a huge insight into, okay, right from the start for, I just flashed back to, I was going to say, right at the start of graphic design with Toulouse-Lautrec painting posters and doing prints for the Moulin Rouge. That's not even really the start of graphic design, but, when we look back, that's the combination of art and design, words, graphics, pictures, advertisements for the Moulin Rouge, sort of having this huge crossover for the first time in history. And the thing that happened then was that Lautrec really put his style into those posters, his art style. Moving forward in time, I look at Basquiat, who had a lot of painting, a lot of collage work, a lot of words written into his painting, his works, and it created a whole different style. It was an angry style. It was a style fueled by the drugs that he was on and the time that he was in, and the driving passions of Andy Warhol, who, he brought Basquiat into his studio and said, here, work. Warhol was good at that. He drove a machine that was his art factory. See, all of this kind of already cemented in my mind that people have different ways to work and different ways to look at things and different ways to create and show. And each one of these ways of portraying art taught me that there were different ways to receive that art. And I applied that same sort of concept, that same sort of structure in design school, and I applied that same sort of thinking process when I came to the ad agency in 99, I think that was. And at the ad agency, I started as an intern, I worked my way up to designer, and I worked all the way up to art director, managing other designers before I left there. And one of the things I brought to the table that they hadn't really thought of before was, what is the style that you're applying to this logo that somebody wants? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, is it a Matisse or is it a Rembrandt? Blanked everything but Rembrandt, so I'm just going with it. So when I went to them, I would say, well, what style do you want this in? And they frankly didn't understand how to work with somebody coming out of design school who already sort of had this huge art history background. And so they would say, well, it's just, make up like 30 or 40 different options, just give them to me and we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, but tell me what style it is. And until we got actually a working relationship underway, it was really hard for them to qualify what that meant. But very quickly, I would present, 30, 40 different logo options. These are starting options. And the thing is that I work through hundreds of options generally, and I narrow that down to 20 or 30, then I narrow that down. And in any given pitch, when I'm showing people logo options, I present 3. Just 3. 3 is it, because 3 is all the mind needs. Any more than 3 literally confuses, it triggers a fight or flight response, knocks off part of that prefrontal cortex. You don't think logically because all of a sudden it becomes too much for the conscious experience to take in and apply in mental context. That's the biggest thing. Because when we see logos, we go, oh yeah, I could see this on this, I could see this on this, I could see this on this, and we start applying mental context to it. And we can do that with about 3 logos. Any more than that, and it no longer, the brain doesn't work right. The machinery of the brain kind of hijacks after that. And we think, as someone who is a client, I hate to tell you, oftentimes you go, well, I want more options than that. I want more. But the truth is that you don't. Because it gets to be where you can't make a decision and you don't know what to do next or what to request. So humbly, I will tell you, 3 is a really good number. It's a good starting place. We can always choose 1 or 2 and combine and do options and do other things than that. But 3 is really the most that you want to look at any time. And I would apply that to most things that you judge. So really quickly at the agency, they discovered that, okay, when we say style, when we start talking about style, Jeremy is basically going through his brain, and you can do this, and I really highly recommend this, going through your brain and going, okay, is this Indiana Jones and the of the kind of style? In which case, you can picture it in your mind, one of those Indiana Jones fonts, kind of arching with the letters that get big to little. Is it that sort of thing? Or is it the style of an Italian restaurant or a Mexican restaurant? Or is it the style of John Wick? Like, what are words that might represent John Wick? Hard, colorful, brutal. How do you put that into a logo? So I tend to actually love to think in terms of movies and TV shows and books. And I love to apply the concepts, at least, thematically, in the context of style in logos. And that tends to be broadly applied to websites and brochures and everything else. Because when you start talking about your style in those terms, what are you talking about? You're talking about things that differentiate you from your competition, whomever that competition is. You are talking about things that elevate you in fun, in expertise, in just standing out, because you do get a style. And we are in a very interesting time right now where businesses, as they grow, they tend to choose a logo, and this can apply to so many different industries right now that I've assisted with through the years. Software, pharma, just a small portion of that. Yoga studios, soaps, teachers, tools for the students. A pizza shop, a taco shop. When businesses start out, there is a lot of freedom. There is a lot of opportunity to examine the competition and do something that is kind of wild, kind of fun, and really memorable. And that's important because your logo, your style that's embodied, that's embedded in that visual symbol that represents you, that is tied to that persona style, that's what people get to know. That's what they actually heart. That's what they want on a t-shirt. That's the sort of thing when you create the impression through communication, through customer service and excellence, through providing who you are and everything that you do to your customer, you build that heart-beating relationship, and people love to, you will buy a hat if it's a cool enough logo for a company that you really enjoy. I'm just thinking of The Office, and how many people have you seen, know, or maybe have just heard of or seen online that have a Dunder Mifflin shirt or hat? Dunder Mifflin is the fictional company from The Office. That is the paper company that they work for. And I know that there are plenty of stores in the mall that's right near me that offer Dunder Mifflin attire, that offer the patches or the hat or anything like that. See, when a logo is fun, is something that is reminiscent and reminds us of good times, we want to put it on ourselves. There are people that have the Apple symbol tattooed on their body. They have Zune. I've seen this one, the Zune, the Microsoft Zune. If you remember that, it was the Apple iPod wannabe from Microsoft. I've seen people with the Zune logo tattooed on them. And people do crazy things when they like the company, when they like the service, when they really feel like something is neat. And when you're small, you have a great opportunity to create a custom logo that is different, that is fun, that is truly representative of you. And when you do that, you stand out from all the stiff and grumpy looking logos of so many people around you. One of the logos I finished recently, in the last year or so, was the Kraken's Cup, a tea shop in Knoxville. and it's this great octopus that's reaching out and holding a tea plate and a teacup and lifting off a top hat. Totally different than anything else in the area. Totally fun, unique. The owner of that place, Valley, it was her idea. This is a character she had in her head, and she's tried multiple designers and outlets to try and get it built. And she came to me because it's me. I can do this. I can absolutely do something like that. What do you want? What colors do you want it? Absolutely, we can do that. And I love doing fun things like that because it stands out, because people don't expect it. And the thing that happens is that as your business grows, the more people you hire, the more you're supposed to look professional, the more you're supposed to be dull, the more you're supposed to kind of give up the fun. And you might remember Yahoo's logo like 15 years ago. It had a little like, Yahoo! It had a little bounce to it. It had a little thing going on with the O's and the letters, and it was fun. And over time, they needed to compete with Microsoft. They needed to compete with Google. They needed to compete with Amazon. And their logo became more corporate, more static, more Helvetica. And that right there, that's what I want to share with you. If you see a logo that is primary Helvetica, or looks like that, Microsoft's font is Arial, right? That's the one they made up just to match Helvetica, but not be Helvetica. Pretty much everybody on Earth has seen Helvetica. It's a very plain looking font, but when you reach a certain point of a corporate level, you'll notice that a lot of companies make the choice to ditch the fun logo, to ditch the wild and crazy things, and go to a very static looking thing like that. Now, the sign that is giving customers is that they are trustworthy, that they are reliable, that they have a reasonable foundation. That font in particular, or others just like it, shows that they can communicate and be static, and that it's the products that matter, not the company. The company is stable and secure. That is the subtle symbology that they're trying to share through that choice. And as companies grow and adapt and shift, like there's a life cycle to companies where they start out small and scrappy, and then they start growing, and then they, maybe have some troubles, some challenges, and there's ups and downs and rocky, and then they, if a company is really successful over time, they hit that peak, and then they have to start buying other companies because they have nowhere else to grow to, and so they have to expand to different markets, and then after that, it's a decline. Like at some point, if you don't expand, you decline, and we see this with AT&T, we see this with AOL. We see this with a lot of companies today that have not been able to make it through the pandemic. They are changing, they are shifting what they're doing, they're buying other companies, they're pivoting, they're finding ways to live and adjust. And at the top level, when we look at their logos, they are the most boring, mundane, asinine, Helvetica looking things. And the reason is they need to portray stability. Most of these companies, when they reach this level, are either public or publicly held, like meaning they're on a stock exchange, or they just have a board, a structure where they don't optimize their risk. Everything about business is risk. Just like everything about life is the experiences that we challenge ourselves to. A life without challenge, a life without conflict, right? Every time we look at stories, again, I love movies, I love stories, I love the idea of stories, I love the hero's journey. And when we look at these things, they're telling us, right? Even from Greek times, like the Odyssey, the Iliad, they're telling us that people go through challenges, that people go through struggles that they have to overcome, and that you are the hero of your life. And that in order to remain the hero of your life, you have to keep on taking on these bigger challenges every day. You have to face them and overcome them in order to keep growing internally, and in order to keep growing up here, in order to reach the promised land of whatever that is. And so we take that and we apply that to business, and there's always a struggle. There's always something to overcome. It's a juggling act. It's a game. We have to learn to play with it a little bit more and maybe not take it so seriously. There's enough seriousness in business, in understanding that when you're working with people, you are taking their lives in your hands in some way. You are taking their future in your hands in some way. You are helping them elevate themselves, their business, their perspective, their vision, their growth in some way. When I'm coaching people, it's all about, let's find what's holding you back. Let's find those fears. Let's find all of that struggle, that conflict within you, because you I've said this before, you are that perfect quantum essence. Your soul, your spirit, however you want to look at it, is pure within you. And the things that hold you back, the things that stop you, are that filter of life experience. I do this every time. I don't think anybody really understands. This is like the filter that, when you cross your fingers like that, the pieces you look through, that's the part of your soul that still comes through, that's still shining through, that is still absolutely you. Beautiful, perfect, whole, shining, brilliant. That never goes away, ever. What happens is all of this fleshy stuff, all of this bodysuit, all of this human suit, being human, growing up human, the way the brain works, the way the body works, it's a slow training away from all of those things that's pure in energy and source and spirit. And part of growing and facing the challenges of your life and finding your own style and finding your own voice and finding your own authenticity and finding it in a way that you can identify it and name it. Generous, caring, open, compassionate, brilliant, sincere, authentic, right? What we're doing to find these words is we're removing the fears, we're removing the pain, we're removing the trauma, we're helping you heal from the inside out. We're helping you heal so that we're not fixing anything. There's nothing to you to be fixed. You are enough. You are worthy. You are not broken. We're not fixing anything. You are that pure light. You are pure brilliance. And as you embrace that and you name these words that describe who you are, as you name these words, write them down. Because these are the words you need to come back to remind yourself that this is purely who you are. Your style is more about the inside of you trying to shine through those filters. Your style is all about who you want to be and who you want to share. Be a little messy, be fun, be different than everybody else. Because that's the key to being you. Your perspective is so unique. Everything within you, your experience, your life is driving you to be unique. Uniquely you. Beautifully you. And that's a wonder. And that's a marvel. It's a friggin' miracle. Okay? When we look at the entire universe and everything that's happening, you being here is a miracle. And that soul, that spirit, that essence, that energy, that brilliance shining through you, your journey is to unlock and remove all of those filters that have been put in your way. All of the filters that you don't think are there until you hit a wall and you realize something is holding you back. And that's why today's talk has been about style. Because by identifying those words, you move them away from the filters into the logical experience, into the neocortex, into that part of the logical brain that starts naming things. And when you name it, then we tell it back to the subconscious and we say, look, I don't know what's been holding me back, but this is the truth about me. I am courageous. I am powerful. I am amazing. Now it's your turn. You are powerful, you are courageous, and you are amazing. See, when you say the words, you give yourself power. You use the words that are good for you, and you put images in your head that are good for you. And by saying those things and reinforcing those things, you start to become those things more and more. And since that's the true essence of yourself shining through with less filter, you're being authentic to you. You are holding on to your truth and your brilliance, and you are growing every single day. So my name is Jeremy Tank. Check me out at www.thinktankcreative.net. My process is called Manifest Design. It's all of this stuff. Read about it at thinktankcreative.net. Sign up actually for a free 30-minute consultation on there. I would love to hear about your life, your business. We can talk about coaching, consulting, anything under the sun that interests you. And by all means, like, share, comment down below. Tell me what you love about this video. Tell me what you like about your life. Tell me what you absolutely adore about yourself. I want to hear it, and I want to repeat it back to you just to make sure that you hear it. I love you. Take care. Thanks.